The Exile's Sentence. Commander Sarah Chen stood before the Galactic Council, her weathered uniform still carrying scorch marks from the Battle of New Eden. The massive chamber stretched above her, its crystalline walls reflecting the faces of 24 alien species, some humanoid, others decidedly not. Their expressions ranged from carefully neutral to openly hostile. Commander Chen, Supreme Counselor Vaxthar began, his iridescent scales catching the light as he leaned forward. Your actions during the Kraxan invasion of the outer colonies were unprecedented. Sarah kept her stance rigid, hands clasped behind her back. She knew what was coming. The Council had never appreciated humans' tendency to ignore protocols when lives were at stake. You were ordered to withdraw from the Epsilon sector. Another counselor chittered, mandibles clicking in agitation. Instead, you not only remained but engaged in direct combat with the Kraxan fleet. Those colonies housed 3 million civilians, Sarah replied, her voice steady. The evacuation was only 30% complete. Withdrawal would have meant their deaths. Protocol exists for a reason. Commander Vaxthar's voice carried a dangerous edge. Your actions, while successful, demonstrated a dangerous disregard for established military doctrine. The Council has decided you require special assignment. Sarah's jaw tightened. She'd heard about these special assignments. They were the Council's way of disposing of problematic individuals without creating martyrs. There is a planet in the outer rim, Vaxthar continued, bringing up a holographic display. Thanatos. We require a detailed survey of its surface and assessment of its potential strategic value. The hologram showed a world wreathed in perpetual storms, its surface a maze of jagged mountains and deep canyons. Sarah had heard whispers about Thanatos. Those sent there didn't return. And if I refuse? This is not a request, Commander. It is an order. You depart in 12 hours. As Sarah strode from the chamber, her boots echoing on the polished floor, she caught fragments of whispered conversations. Won't survive a week. Fitting end for a troublemaker. In her quarters, Sarah packed efficiently, her movements precise and controlled. The Council thought they were sending her to die. They'd forgotten the first rule about humans. We're at our most dangerous when backed into a corner. Her personal AI, Araya, manifested as a small hologram by her desk. Commander, I've analyzed all available data on Thanatos. The planet's conditions are extreme. Surface temperatures range from -70 to +45 Celsius. Electromagnetic storms disrupt most communication and scanning equipment. Indigenous life forms show unusual adaptations to the harsh environment. Anything about previous surveys? Sarah asked, checking the power cells on her combat suit. Negative. All previous missions are classified. However, I detected an interesting pattern. Every surveyor sent to Thanatos had recently caused political inconvenience for the Council. Sarah smiled grimly. Imagine that. She spent the remaining hours preparing her ship, a sleek Terran Scout-class vessel designated Starcutter. Its systems were heavily modified. Sarah had learned long ago not to trust standard-issue equipment. The ship's AI core had been enhanced with quantum processors, its sensors upgraded to function in extreme conditions. As she completed the pre-launch sequence, a message flashed across her console. It was from Admiral Zhang, her old mentor at the Academy. Remember the ancient mariners, Sarah. Sometimes the storm itself shows you the way home. The launch bay doors opened to reveal the glittering expanse of space. Sarah engaged the engines, feeling the familiar thrum of power through the ship's frame. The Council thought Thanatos would be her grave. Instead, she'd make it her proving ground. Araya, plot a course for Thanatos. Let's show them what happens when they try to bury a human alive. The Starcutter accelerated smoothly into hyperspace, leaving behind the gleaming spires of the Council station. As the stars blurred into streaks of light, Sarah reviewed the sketchy intelligence on her destination. The official reports were clearly sanitized, but reading between the lines painted a disturbing picture. Thanatos wasn't just a harsh world, it was a predator's paradise, where evolution had crafted creatures perfectly adapted to hunt in its endless storms and treacherous terrain. Perfect. They'd sent her somewhere interesting after all. Commander. Aria's voice interrupted her thoughts. I've detected an encrypted data packet embedded in our launch clearance codes. Origin unknown. Let's hear it. A burst of static resolved into a whispered message. The beast in the storm holds the key. Trust in the shadow that walks alone. Sarah leaned back in her pilot's chair, watching the swirling chaos of hyperspace. The council had meant to write her epitaph. Instead, they'd just written the first chapter of a story they wouldn't see coming. Thanatos waited in the darkness ahead, its mysteries and monsters calling to her across the void. They thought they were sending her into exile. They were about to learn that sometimes exile was just another word for freedom. Into the abyss. The Starcutter's hull groaned as it pierced Thanatos' atmosphere. Lightning arced across the view screen. The planet's perpetual storms greeting Sarah with lethal intensity. The ship's enhanced sensors struggled to penetrate the electromagnetic chaos surrounding her. Multiple lightning strikes detected, Aria reported. Hull integrity at 87% and dropping. Conventional landing protocols are inadvisable. Sarah's hands danced across the controls, guiding the ship through the maelstrom. When have we ever done things conventionally, Aria? A massive bolt of purple-tinged lightning struck the port wing, sending the ship into a spiral. Sarah fought the controls, her enhanced reflexes, and the ship's quantum processors working in perfect sync to stabilize their descent. The ground rushed up to meet them, a landscape that seemed designed by a nightmare artist. Crystalline formations jutted from the earth, like the teeth of ancient monsters, their surfaces crackling with stored electromagnetic energy. Vast canyons carved by eons of savage storms created a maze below, their depths lost in swirling, bioluminescent mists. Sarah brought the Starcutter down in a relatively sheltered canyon, the ship's landing struts sinking into soil that seemed to pulse with an inner light. The moment the engines powered down, the true voice of Thanatos made itself heard, a constant symphony of thunder, wind, and strange, distant calls that made the hair on the back of her neck stand up. External atmosphere analysis complete, Aria announced. Breathable, but high concentrations of exotic particles. Recommend full environmental suit protocols. Sarah sealed her combat suit, checking the enhanced shields she'd installed. Standard issue equipment would have failed in seconds under Thanatos' electromagnetic assault. She prepared for worse. Begin perimeter scan and establish base camp protocols, she ordered, retrieving her modified pulse rifle. I'm going to have a look around. The moment she stepped outside, Sarah understood why Thanatos had such a fearsome reputation. The air itself seemed alive with energy, making her suit's sensors flicker and dance. The ground beneath her feet pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, responding to her presence like a living thing. She made her way up a nearby ridge, using her rifle's scope to survey the landscape. The perpetual storm created an ever-shifting light show above, illuminating the terrain in brief, stark flashes. In one such flash, she saw it. A shadow moving with impossible grace along the canyon wall, larger than any predator she'd encountered in her years of space exploration. Aria, are you seeing this? Affirmative. Biometric readings are unusual. The creature appears to be absorbing the ambient electromagnetic energy. Caution is advised. The shadow moved again, closer this time. Sarah held her ground, rifle ready but not raised. The encrypted message echoed in her mind. Trust in the shadow that walks alone. A massive form emerged from the storm shadows. It stood easily 4 meters tall, its body covered in scales that seemed to drink in light. 2 pairs of eyes, glowing with an inner fire, studied her with unmistakable intelligence. Its movements were fluid, almost graceful despite its size. The legendary Shadow Strider. The creature circled her slowly, those burning eyes never leaving her face. Sarah remained still, her heart pounding but her stance relaxed. This wasn't just some mindless predator. There was purpose in its movements, calculation in its gaze. "You're what they're afraid of, aren't you?" She spoke softly, more to herself than the creature. "The thing that keeps their exiles from becoming their martyrs." The Shadow Strider tilted its head, an almost human gesture of curiosity. It took another step closer, close enough that Sarah could see patterns of energy moving beneath its scales, matching the pulses in the ground beneath her feet. Suddenly, the creature's head snapped up, its attention focused on something in the distance. A new sound cut through the storm's chaos, a high-pitched whine that made Sarah's teeth ache. The Shadow Strider's scales rippled with intense light, and it turned its gaze back to her. To her shock, it lowered its massive head, bringing those fierce eyes level with hers. In them, she saw not the mindless hunger of a predator, but something far more intriguing, an invitation. The whining sound grew louder, and now Sarah could see shapes moving through the storm, mechanical forms that shouldn't have been able to function in Thanatos' electromagnetic chaos. The Council had lied about more than just the planet's surveyor missions. The Shadow Strider made a low, rumbling sound, its head still lowered in clear invitation. Sarah smiled beneath her helmet. The Council had sent her here to die, but they'd made a crucial mistake. They'd forgotten that humans had a talent for turning enemies into allies. "Well," she said, reaching out slowly toward the creature, "I did come here for a survey mission. Shall we go see what else they're lying about?" The Shadow Strider's scales pulsed with brilliant light, and in that moment, Sarah knew she'd found something far more valuable than survival. She'd found a partner in her quest to expose the Council's secrets. As she placed her hand on the creature's scales, feeling the electric thrum of energy beneath them, the storm above seemed to pause, as if Thanatos itself was holding its breath. The Council had meant this planet to be her tomb. Instead, it had become the stage for something unprecedented, a partnership that would shake the foundations of their carefully ordered galaxy. The mechanical sounds grew closer, but Sarah felt no fear. She had survived the storms of Thanatos, gained the trust of its apex predator, and now she would discover what secrets the Council was willing to kill to protect. The hunt was about to begin, and this time, she wasn't the prey. Understanding the beast. 3 days into her exile on Thanatos, Sarah Chen found herself doing something she never expected, riding through lightning-filled canyons on the back of what was supposed to be the planet's deadliest predator. The Shadow Strider moved with impossible grace, its scaled body absorbing the constant electrical discharges that would have fried her suit's systems without its protection. "Energy readings are off the scale," Araya reported through her helmet comm. "The creature appears to be using the storm's power to enhance its own biological systems." Sarah held tight as the Shadow Strider navigated a particularly treacherous ravine. She discovered that the creature's bioluminescent patterns weren't just beautiful. They were language. Complex sequences of light rippling through its scales conveyed meaning, emotion, and intent. She was learning to read them, slowly but surely. "Those mechanical signatures are getting stronger," she said, checking the readings on her suit's display. "Whatever the Council's hiding, we're getting close." The Shadow Strider, whom she'd started calling Atlas after the mythical titan who bore the weight of the world, rumbled in agreement. Its scales flashed a pattern she'd come to recognize as warning/caution/preparation. They crested a ridge, and Sarah's breath caught in her throat. Below them, partially hidden by the storm's fury, stood a massive structure. Unlike the crystalline formations that dominated Thanatos' landscape, this was clearly artificial, a fortress of dark metal and pulsing energy fields that seemed to draw the lightning itself into its core. "Araya, are you seeing this?" "Affirmative. Architecture matches no known Galactic Council designs. Energy signatures suggest technology far beyond current Council capabilities." Atlas's scales rippled with a pattern she hadn't seen before, recognition/memory/loss. The creature knew this place, or at least knew of it. "This is why they send people here to die, isn't it?" Sarah mused, patting Atlas's neck. Can't have anyone discovering their little secret. A mechanical whine cut through the storm's roar, the same sound they'd heard during their first meeting. Drone patrols, but unlike any Sarah had seen before. They moved through the electromagnetic chaos as if it didn't exist, their designs as alien as the fortress they guarded. Atlas pressed close to the ridge, his scales shifting to match the storm shadows around them. Sarah activated her suit's stealth systems, enhanced by what she'd learned from studying the Shadow Strider's camouflage abilities. Together, they watched as the drones passed overhead, their sensors sweeping the area with beams of purple light. "The Council claims this planet is untamable," Sarah whispered. "But someone tamed it long before they found it, didn't they?" Atlas' response was a complex pattern of lights that spoke of age/truth/awakening. The creature wasn't just intelligent. It was a guardian, a keeper of secrets that the Council would kill to protect. Using hand signals she developed with Atlas, Sarah indicated they should circle the facility. The Shadow Strider moved with practiced stealth, each step precisely placed despite his massive size. As they circled, Sarah's suit sensors mapped the fortress, revealing details that made her blood run cold. Analyze those power readings. What are we looking at? Energy output suggests a quantum manipulation facility. If my readings are correct, this installation is capable of altering the fundamental forces of reality itself. Sarah's mind raced. The Council's rigid control of technological development, their obsession with protocol and procedure. It all made sense now. They hadn't claimed Thanatos as a prison planet. They'd claimed it to hide the source of their power. Atlas suddenly tensed, his scales flashing danger/protection/decision. More drones were approaching, but these were different. Larger, armed. They'd been spotted. "Time to show them what we can do together," Sarah said, readying her modified pulse rifle. Atlas's answering rumble shook the ground beneath them. The first drone opened fire, its energy weapons useless against Atlas's electromagnetic absorption abilities. Sarah returned fire, her shots guided by Aria's targeting systems and powered by energy Atlas fed directly into her suit's systems. The drone exploded in a spectacular display of lightning and shrapnel. More drones emerged from the storm, but they never stood a chance. The supposed apex predator of Thanatos and the exiled human commander moved as one, their strengths perfectly complementing each other. Sarah's tactical experience and advanced technology merged with Atlas's raw power and intimate knowledge of the planet's storms. As the last drone fell, its remains crackling with residual energy, Sarah realized something profound. The Council had sent her to Thanatos believing the planet would destroy her. Instead, it had made her stronger. In Atlas, she'd found not just an ally, but a key to understanding powers the Council had sought to monopolize. "We need to get inside that facility," she said, studying the fortress through her rifle's scope. "Whatever they're hiding in there, it's big enough to reshape the balance of power in the galaxy." Atlas's scales pulsed with agreement/determination/anticipation. The storm above intensified, as if Thanatos itself was preparing for what was to come. Sarah checked her weapons and adjusted her suit's power distribution. The Council had tried to write her off as just another disappearing exile, but she and Atlas were about to remind them of an ancient truth: never corner something that's stronger than you think it is. The hidden truth. Infiltrating the fortress proved easier than Sarah expected, because Atlas wasn't breaking in. He was returning home. The Shadow Strider's scales pulsed with a complex pattern she'd never seen before, and a section of the fortress wall simply shifted, revealing a passage that didn't exist moments before. As they entered, Sarah's suit sensors struggled to make sense of their surroundings. What are we looking at? Architecture appears to be biomechanical in nature. The entire structure is composed of the same energy-absorbing material as the Shadow Strider's scales. Hypothesis: this facility wasn't built on Thanatos. It grew here. The corridors pulsed with the same bioluminescent patterns as Atlas's scales, responding to their presence like a living thing. Sarah followed her companion's lead, noting how the massive creature moved through the space with familiar ease. "You're not just a native species, are you?" she murmured. "You're its guardians." Atlas's response pattern translated roughly to confirmation/duty/inheritance. They passed through chambers filled with technology that defied conventional physics, machines that seemed to manipulate reality itself. The deeper they went, the more Sarah understood why the Council would kill to keep this secret. "Commander," Aria's voice held an unusual note of urgency. "I'm detecting multiple stasis fields ahead. Life signs present." They entered a vast chamber that stole Sarah's breath. Dozens of stasis pods lined the walls, each containing a different alien species. Some she recognized from her travels. Others were completely unknown. But what caught her attention were the data displays beside each pod. These aren't prisoners, she realized, reading the scrolling information. They're the original survey teams, the ones who discovered the truth. Atlas moved to a central console, his scales interfacing directly with the alien technology. The chamber came alive with holographic displays, revealing the true history of Thanatos. Long before the Galactic Council existed, an ancient civilization had achieved mastery over the fundamental forces of reality. They created the Shadow Striders as living guardians of their knowledge, beings capable of absorbing and channeling the raw energy of Thanatos' perpetual storms. But they understood the danger of their discoveries falling into the wrong hands. When the Council first discovered Thanatos, they found technology beyond their comprehension. Rather than admit the existence of a superior civilization, they turned the planet into their dirty secret. Every explorer, scientist, or soldier who discovered the truth was given a choice: permanent exile in stasis, or a quick death in the storms. "They've been using this technology," Sarah said, examining the data streams. "Reverse engineering it piece by piece, using it to maintain their power while keeping the rest of the galaxy in the dark." Atlas's scales flashed with anger/justice/resolution. The stasis pods began powering down, their occupants starting the slow process of awakening. Each of them had discovered a piece of the truth. Together, they could expose the Council's lies. But before the first pod could fully open, alarms blared through the facility. On the security feeds, Sarah saw Council ships entering orbit. Not survey vessels or patrol craft, but a full battle fleet. "They're not taking any chances," she muttered. "Aria, how many ships?" "Detecting 12 capital ships and associated support craft. Energy signatures suggest they're equipped with weapons derived from this facility's technology." Sarah turned to Atlas, seeing her own determination reflected in those ancient eyes. The Council thought they could bury their secrets in Thanatos' storms. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "We need to wake these people and get them to safety," she said. "But first, we're going to give the Council a demonstration of what this technology can really do in the right hands." Atlas's scales blazed with approval/anticipation/partnership. Around them, the facility thrummed with power as ancient systems awakened fully for the first time in millennia. The storm above intensified, responding to the Shadow Strider's call. Sarah checked her weapons and interfaced her suit with the facility's systems. The Council had sent a fleet to ensure their secrets died with her. Instead, they'd given her the perfect stage to expose their lies to the entire galaxy. "RIA, prepare to broadcast on all frequencies. The Council wants to play with forces they don't understand. Let's show them what happens when you try to cage a storm." Through their neural link, she felt Atlas gathering the storm's power, channeling it through the ancient machinery. The fortress trembled with energies that could reshape reality itself. As the Council fleet moved into position above, Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. They thought they were coming to bury their secrets. They were about to become part of a revelation that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. Return of the Exiled. The Council fleet's opening salvo lit up Thanatos' stormy skies like artificial suns. Energy weapons designed to level cities struck the ancient fortress and were absorbed completely. Inside the control chamber, Sarah Chen watched through the facility's sensors as the council ships realized their weapons were only making their targets stronger. "Your ancestors built this place well," she said to Atlas, whose scales rippled with pride/amusement/anticipation. The awakened survivors from the stasis pods had taken up positions throughout the facility, each contributing their unique knowledge and skills. A Xerxian quantum physicist, a Helleran archaeologist, a dozen other brilliant minds who had discovered too much. Now, they would help reveal everything. "Area. Status on the broadcast systems. Ready, Commander. We can transmit to every inhabited world in the galaxy simultaneously. The facility's quantum entanglement network bypasses all known communication barriers." Sarah nodded, watching as more council ships arrived. "They're really not taking any chances, are they? Atlas, shall we show them what they're actually dealing with?" The Shadow Strider's response was immediate and dramatic. Energy coursed through the facility's ancient systems, channeled through circuits that had waited millennia for this moment. Above them, Thanatos' perpetual storm began to change, forming patterns that defied natural law. "This is Commander Sarah Chen broadcasting to all galactic frequencies," she began, her voice carried by technology the Council had tried to suppress. "The Galactic Council has been lying to you. They've murdered innocents, imprisoned brilliant minds, and hoarded technology that could transform our civilization. But don't take my word for it. Let me show you." Through the facility's systems, she transmitted everything. The historical records, the proof of the Council's systematic elimination of discoverers, the true capabilities of the ancient technology they'd been reverse engineering for their own power. The Council fleet opened fire again, this time with weapons reversed engineered from the facility's technology. But Sarah and Atlas were ready. The Shadow Strider's scales blazed with power as he interfaced directly with the fortress's systems, showing Sarah patterns she instantly understood. Together, they turned the storm itself into a weapon. Lightning arced between council ships, their shields useless against power drawn from Thanatos itself. The ancient technology, fully awakened and properly used, made their most advanced weapons look like children's toys. "This is what they feared," Sarah broadcast, her voice reaching every corner of the galaxy. "Not just the technology, but the truth it represents. There are wonders in this universe beyond their control, beyond their understanding, and they would rather kill than admit it." On her screens, she could see the impact of her words. Worlds across the galaxy erupted in discussion and debate. The Council's carefully maintained image of authority crumbled as billions witnessed their lies exposed. Atlas's scales flashed with urgency/opportunity/action. Sarah understood immediately. It wasn't enough to expose the truth. They had to show a better way. "People of the galaxy," she continued, "the beings who built this place understood something the Council never did. Power isn't meant to be hoarded. Knowledge isn't meant to be buried. The Shadow Striders weren't created to guard secrets, but to share wisdom with those ready to receive it." Through their connection to the facility, Sarah and Atlas began transmitting data packages to scientific institutions across the galaxy. Not weapons or tools of control, but clean energy systems, medical breakthroughs, innovations that could improve lives everywhere. The Council Fleet Commander's voice crackled over the comm. "Chen, stop this transmission immediately. You have no idea what forces you're dealing with." "Actually," Sarah replied, "I understand exactly what I'm dealing with." "Atlas, care to demonstrate?" The Shadow Strider's response shook the heavens. The storm above coalesced into a visible manifestation of power, a display of energy manipulation that proved beyond doubt the facility's capabilities. Council ships found themselves trapped in fields of controlled lightning, unable to fire or flee. The Council claimed Thanatos was a death sentence. Sarah broadcast. "Instead, it showed me the truth. We're not alone in this universe. We're not meant to be alone. Every species, every world, has something to contribute to a greater whole." The survivors from the stasis pods joined her broadcast, each adding their voice, their story, their proof of the Council's deceptions. The truth spread across the galaxy like wildfire, impossible to contain or control. In orbit, Council ships began powering down their weapons. Some crews, faced with undeniable evidence of their leaders' crimes, openly declared their rejection of Council authority. "This facility doesn't belong to the Council," Sarah declared. "It doesn't belong to humanity. It belongs to all of us. The Shadow Striders have guarded it for millennia, waiting for the day when we were ready to learn from it together, not fight over it." Atlas's scales pulsed with approval/hope/future. Around them, the facility hummed with power, not as a weapon but as a beacon of possibility. The Council's fleet hung motionless in orbit, their authority broken not by force but by truth. Sarah Chen, the exile they'd sent to die, had instead become a catalyst for change that would reshape galactic civilization. "So what happens now?" asked one of the awakened survivors. Sarah looked at Atlas, seeing in those ancient eyes the same determination she felt. "Now," she said, "we do what the builders of this place intended. We learn. We grow. We face the universe's mysteries together." The storm above Thanatos continued its eternal dance, but its voice had changed. No longer a howl of warning, but a song of promise. The Council had meant the planet to be a tomb for their secrets. Instead, it had become a cradle for a new age of discovery. Sarah placed her hand on Atlas's scales, feeling the thrum of power and possibility, ready to help teach some newcomers about the neighborhood. The Shadow Strider's answering pattern needed no translation. The future was just beginning.